And welcome back to another Pokemon Team Creation series. This one comes to us from Shadows82, who asked the question, what would be the Pokemon team of Aurora Monroe, aka Storm? Now, I am doing a composited version of Storm, because every version of Storm out there, from the movies to any one of the cartoons and the comics, would be different in some way. So, we're just going to look at Storm in general. Obviously, Storm's big thing is her mutation allows her to control weather, allows her to manipulate and control the weather. And she can use it to varying degrees. So I kind of knew right out of the gate that I needed a team that was mostly comprised of Mon that are either manipulating the weather in some way, have an ability that maybe counteracts weather phenomenon, things along those lines. So let's get some things out of the way right now. Actually, let's get one fun one out of the way right now. On the team, I kind of realized that if we're talking about a Mon that deals with weather, Castform actually made a lot of sense. This would make sense in terms of how she would use a Pokemon in battle. Depending on what she needs Castform to do, she could change the weather to match what Castform's form needs to be. Hypothetically, in a world where mutants and Pokemon can work to live together and still have their powers. But still, it would make sense because Castform can learn all of the weather moves. Granted, Castform only has 3 forms: the sunny day, rainy day, and hail form. Now, who was it? Locks and Noggin or Hoops and Hip Hop? Or Berkey. One of them did a Pokemon region based off the Northeast, if I'm not mistaken, that dealt with seasons, and they made a Castform form for every weather typing. When you really break it down too, we've had Sandstorm, which makes 100% sense, obviously. We also have a lot of terrain abilities, which theoretically could work towards that as well. So I don't know, maybe it's just because they haven't created enough weather phenomenon yet to warrant that, but I mean, really, that wouldn't really be that hard to do. You just got to figure out what types translate into what weather phenomenon. And yeah, so theoretically, we could get Castform getting all sorts of forms at some point. I mean, who's to say? Pokemon is still just about as popular as it's always been. Albeit, I've heard some people say they've fallen off of Pokemon in recent years, and that's fair. It's almost 30. I believe it's almost 30, if not going. Yeah, it's almost 30. Not quite 30, but almost 30. I think, isn't it next year is the 30th anniversary? But Pokemon really is Pokemania really was its peak in the 90s to early 2000s. But Pokemon has never gone away. And Pokemon, thanks to Pokemon Go and just continuing to evolve the series, has really seen a spike in resurgence in the last decade. So Pokemon's still very much one of the top dogs in popularity. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to see a Castform form at some point. But moving on we're looking at Pokemon that can also just have weather effects in general. Now, this came down to, I knew I wanted something. Aurora is known mostly for her ability to manipulate lightning. I mean, known for it, but she can do anything, really. Manipulate lightning, cause thunderstorms, snowstorms. And so I'm like, all right, that we can work with here. So let's look at something that can cause a snowstorm. And I believe Snow Cloak is the ability that causes snow or hail. So I went with a very elegant, beautiful looking Pokemon, which it's Aurora. God, my pronunciation never was good as a kid. I actually had speech problems as a kid. Aurora is very beautiful, elegant. She's always depicted as a very beautiful one. I went with Alolan Ninetales. It's a very powerful Pokemon. It's a dragon killer. Ice Fairy is a dragon killing type. And it has Snow Cloak, or whatever the ability is that causes a snowstorm upon arrival. Should note that I also used Alolan Ninetales as an example for this because Aurora is an Omega level mutant. She's one of the strongest mutants on the planet. She just has a lot of self-control. So this would make sense that she has a very powerful Pokemon on her team like this. It's not her strongest. We'll get there. But it's a Mon that's also very regal and beautiful, and she has under her control. Another one I wanted to have on the team was a Pokemon that could cause rain to form. Now, there's 2 ways to do that. I could have gone Drizzle, but when I did that, all I had show up was Politoed, Kyogre, and what was the other one? It was a really random one that could learn Drizzle as well. And I couldn't remember what it was. I'm like, none of these. I'm like, I've already got a couple too powerful mon for Kyogre to be on this team, even with her being an Omega level mutant. Plus, Kyogre is more representation of the ocean. It would make more sense for like a Namor or a Aquaman to have a Kyogre on their team than Aurora, who's weather in general. So I balanced it out a bit differently. Let's go with a Pokemon that can learn Rain Dance, which there are a lot. And I actually decided to go with a Pokemon, very powerful but not fully evolved, in Dragonair. The reason I went with Dragonair over Dragonite is very simple. Dragonair is, again, I went with the beauty aspect of Dragonair. And again, Aurora's being a very beautiful woman. Beyond that, it's a very elegant, it's known actually for like weather phenomenon as opposed to Dragonite, which really isn't. I mean, it can still do everything Dragonair can do. It learns all the attacks Dragonair does, but yeah, I mean, I stand by, I like Dragonite, fine. Dragonite's a great Pokemon, but I stand by what a lot of people have said, like, there is some something wrong between the transition between Dragonair and Dragonite. There is nothing that would say these Pokemon are related to each other except the fact they're dragons, or let alone evolve into each other. Whereas people kind of point out that Magikarp actually looks a lot closer to Dragonite, and Gyarados looks obviously a lot closer to Dragonair. That it maybe at some point it was a swapped evolutionary line, but regardless, I mean, there's plenty of not fake, that's not right, but there's plenty of fan-made Dragonair evolutions that look a lot more in line with what should have been. But still, Dragonair, because she can learn Rain Dance, and because she is a powerful but not fully evolved Pokemon. And Aurora keeps herself in check a lot, which I think helps to warrant Dragonair over Dragonite. But now we're into some bigger hitters here, and we have our rain, we have our ice/snow, but we still need to bring the thunder. We still need to bring the lightning, because one of the big things she does is bring down thunderstorms, summon lightning, manipulate it to her will, and just use it for offense. And electric type makes the most sense. Now, with an electric type, I wanted something that kind of represented literal storm clouds a bit more than just like a Pikachu or even Zeraora, which I love Zeraora. I'll throw a Zeraora on a team anytime it makes sense. I love Zeraora. But no, but there only came two, and both were legendary. One was Raikou, because it does carry a little thunderstorm on its back. That, and we also still have, what was it? Oh, crap. What's its Paradox variant's name right now? Roaring, because we had Roaring Wake. I think it's Roaring, what's the name of its Roaring Cloud or something like that? Okay, hold on. New Pokemon. All right, DLC. New Pokemon DLC. That's what I want. What is the name of that variant? Let's see here. Raging Bolt. That's what it is. Raging Bolt. Which, by the way, I didn't love Walking Wake. It's a strong Pokemon. Water Dragon's a great typing. And if I'm not mistaken, electric dragon for Raging Bolt, and we can guess the Entei one's going to be a fire dragon. I actually like Raging Bolt quite a bit. Raging Bolt, I think, looks really good. But that's my opinion, obviously. So, with that said, Raikou, I'm like, okay, this is Raikou, but Raikou doesn't quite fit. So instead, because she has also apparently in Wakanda at least earned godhood, I went with something that looks more like is the god of thunder, and that is Thundurus. Excuse me. Let's get him over here. Thundurus. It makes the most sense. He looks like a god of thunder, a thunder deity. And all the weather quartet are based off Jinn in some way, which are mystical in their lore, which Aurora also has mystical ancestry and mystical capabilities to her. She doesn't utilize them very much, and she's not truly like a sorceress or anything like that, but she could be if she really wanted to. So Thundurus, for the pure god, the level of power of lightning he has over lightning, makes sense for the godhood she has and the power over the elements she has. But we're not done yet, folks, because if you're talking about weather, you have to have the master of the weather trio. You have to have Rayquaza. Now, why do I have a shiny Rayquaza? A, matches her outfit. But B, it's one of the best shinies around. See, it's because I thought I had an image of regular Rayquaza, and I didn't. Actually, seeing as I'm on Cerebi right now in the background, you can't see it. I'm just on Cerebi because I had to look up the Raging Bolt. I'm going to just get a picture of Rayquaza while I'm talking right now, so I can have it for the future. But Rayquaza, it is the master of the Weather Trio. It is the one, it learns, and its ability, Airlock, makes a lot of sense because all weather effects are negated while the Pokemon's on the field. It's basically Cloud9, but a little bit more powerful, I believe, because it locks away other Pokemon's like abilities, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Rayquaza made the most sense because you have a very powerful legendary Pokemon for someone who is considered, by all accounts, an Omega level mutant. It would make sense you would have an insanely powerful Pokemon like that's on the team. This just adds up in my mind from its relationship to the overall Weather Trio versus its level of power as well. And again, Black Rayquaza, Shiny Rayquaza does look good, I think. But the last Pokemon on the team is one you may not expect. This one I think showed up a couple weeks back on one of the teams. Now, Aurora did not begin her life as, the weather goddess among, mutants, powerful powerhouse. No, she was a street rat and helped serve the Shadow King. She was a thief, pickpocket. And so, why not her first actual Pokemon partner ever be a Pokemon that she probably had since she was a kid that helped her back in those days, and it's her equivalent to Pikachu. Not necessarily her strongest mon, just her partner since the day in, day out. And I go with Thievul. She probably had it when it was a Nickit, and she raised it, and now she has a Thievul. And it will just make sense. It goes back to her darker times when she was scraping to survive. It's not a very powerful, it's got 400 plus stats, but it's not a very powerful Pokemon, but it doesn't need to be. And it would make sense based on her history and her, what she's had to do. So I like that for a Pokemon to represent her history, so to speak. But last but not least, as always, how balanced is the team I just created here? Well, we have one normal type, which has a weakness to fighting, but an immunity to ghost. You have a dragon type, which is weak to ice, dragon, and fairy. You have a fairy and ice type, which is weak to fire, weak to poison, but not, and I think weak to rock, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, it actually doesn't have, because the fairy type helps neutralize the fighting type weakness of that. So you have that going on. You have Nickit, which is just straight up weak to bug and fighting. Then you have Thundurus, which as a electric flying type is massively in trouble with rock types. And then finally you have Rayquaza, who as a flying dragon type, again has issues with fairy, dragon, and ice types. But that's really it. So honestly, when you look at this team, a couple of these Mon do share some weaknesses. Thundurus and Alolan Ninetales do have a bit of a rock weakness. And again, I believe rock is weak to ice, or ice is weak to rock. You have Rayquaza and Dragonair sharing the exact same weaknesses. Other than that, there really is, and you have Nickit and Castform sharing the same weaknesses. But other than that, there's nothing that truly sweeps this team. So yeah, that would be my opinion on this team for Aurora Monroe, aka Storm. But what would you do? Do you like this team, or would you change something up? Let me know. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.